teaching me with my imperfections, reaching me when I run the other direction. I'm undone, unraveling my plans. Make me whole again, rebuild me from the inside out, in a way only you know how.
Welcome to day 21. I am so happy to have you back here at home in Magdala. What you see behind me, of course, is the synagogue, something that most pilgrims come to see because it's a marvelous piece of archaeology, and I think one of the women who has been working on this project will tell us a little bit more about that in a second. But also behind me is this space right outside of the synagogue. At the beginning, when it was uncovered, many people speculated, oh, perhaps the head of the synagogue lived here. And if Jairus happened to be from this town, then this would be his house. It would be the place of the miracle, the healing of raising his daughter from the dead. Well, it seems like this probably isn't a residential area, but at the same time, this is a synagogue. There was a synagogue leader here, and so I think it's the perfect place to reflect a little bit more about this healing miracle. Welcome to day 21. Let's get started.
Again, rebuild me from the inside out, in a way only you know how. You're teaching me with my imperfections, reaching me when I run the other direction. I'm undone, unraveling my plans. Make me whole again, rebuild me from the inside out, in a way only you know how.
So what a blessing it is to have found one of the women who has been working on the project of Magdala. She's actually cooperating with the project from Anáhuac University. But Andrea Garza from Mexico is actually studying currently at the University, or Tel Aviv University, I think is how they say it,
Yes.
and also working on her master's degree. Her specialization is actually coins, and she's here in Magdala to look at some pottery and coins, right?
Yes, I am doing that to understand what happened in this fantastic site that nobody knows exactly what happened with this site, which it is very rich in art, in mosaics, in frescoes. But the thing is, we're so rich and we have like very humble pottery. Why is that?
That's a wonderful archaeological puzzle. Yeah. Here we have the synagogue in front of us, and today we're speaking about the leader of the synagogue. His name is Jairus, and his daughter was dying, and so he wants to find Jesus. I'm sure he heard about Jesus. And so we can say, okay, we've got a synagogue right here, and a house. I mean, this isn't a residential area, right? Or what do we see behind us?
Well, behind us is like a marketplace and an industrial area. We have ovens in it. And yes, residential, I don't think so.
Where would the houses be here in Magdala?
The houses, we have evidence of domestic pottery there behind the ritual area, also close to the sea. And for sure, we need to do more excavations to uncover what we have, where we have more domestic areas, and also to see where we have the wealthy and the humble people.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Since you have been here and have studied these things, probably found some of the really cool coins in the synagogue area and over in the ritual area, you found some of the coins, right?
Yes, I mean, about coins, if we want the fancy coins, we only have, or at least I have only studied 12 silver coins, but the majority that we have are bronze coins. Okay. Coin is coins.
Sure.
You need the bronze coins because it is, their value, it can be divided into many things. And we have a lot of bronze coins.
Like daily life coins.
Yes, daily life.
Tell all of us, what is it that strikes you about Magdala?
Is the uniqueness of the synagogue, is the mosaic.
Right, the beautiful mosaic.
The frescoes that we have, the stone. For sure, the stone was the greatest discoveries in 2009.
Incredible.
And the flower rosetta. The flower rosetta, it's another important symbol. And this symbol We have it as well in the ritual areas.
Right, by the mikveh,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And also in a mosaic. So people who were here, just mentioning these art things,
Yes.
people who were here, they were trying to copy, or they were trying to bring up a status.
Maintain maybe a level of wealth and
Yes.
reputation.
Symbols
maybe.
were symbols of wealthiness. And we can see these symbols, these art in other places as Masada, or in the Jerusalem quarter, Jewish quarter in Jerusalem, and many other rich places.
So, I mean, like some of the colors are from like Herod's palaces, even from Pompeii, I've heard. Is that right?
Like the decoration style, art, and so on, looks like Pompeian. And there is one researcher now who is working on this to understand the art that we have in the synagogue and in the ritual area, and to connect all of it.
How interesting. Right? So if this happened to be his synagogue, why would he have passed by here? Or do you think if it was and Jesus came here, where would they have walked?
For sure, on the streets.
Oh, yes.
If there is a street and we want to find one place, they tell you, this is the address, follow this. Right. It is next to this house, and they describe the place, so you walk in. So if this happened,
sure.
He came down from the boat in the harbor, and he started walking. And then someone comes and say, "Hey, I need your help. Something happened.
Sure.
Can you please come with me?"
Yeah.
And they might have walked somewhere in Magdala, taking the streets.
Sure.
And there is all this movement with the people buying, selling.
A crowd.
Having the nets, taking the nets ready for the harbor, bringing fishes somewhere, the bread and so on. So what my imagination is doing now is thinking that when he comes down, probably he faced this type of reality with a lot of movement in the marketplace, with a lot of movement in the streets. And he's following one man who is like in a very stressful situation.
Absolutely.
And maybe they stopped in the market and say, "Do you want to have a bread for your
for your daughter,
for your daughter?"
Maybe to make her feel better. Maybe Matthew pulled out a few coins from his purse, or Judas, if he was following them at this point, right?
Yes, he said, "I mean, amigo, you have the correct currency.
Yes.
You buy the bread for
one of those coins that you may have found around here. I don't know.
Probably. Our time machine are the artifacts and the pottery, the coins, and so on, and with it, we can try to do connections and then play with imagination.
Incredible. Really neat. Well, thank you for explaining a little bit about this, and good luck with your work. I hope you find some fantastic pottery that helps put this whole puzzle together between coins, pottery, beautiful frescoes, mosaics.
And with the whole Galilee, I mean, we live in a fantastic place.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you. Okay. It's amazing.
Yay. God bless you.
You too.
I need a revival, something more than this shallow survival. God, I need you. God, I need you. Father, bring me redemption. Renew my heart with a resurrection. God, I need you. God, I need you now. You're pouring out.
So here inside of these ruins, here at home at Magdala, it's such a blessing to be, in my opinion, touching these rocks that tell us so much about so many people who have come through here. And of course, being the hometown of Mary Magdalene, it's very special to be here, knowing that she saw all of this. Now, we've chosen this part of Magdala, which many people might not look at too much, because right by my feet are ruins of some type of building. But I'm actually sitting on the edge of the synagogue. And so if you were to be looking for somebody who is maybe the one in charge of the synagogue, you'd probably look around here. Catholics know that if they want to find the parish priest, he usually doesn't live too far away from the parish church itself. And so we assume here in Magdala it was probably the same thing. Now we're going to a passage today which speaks about Well, it's really the continuation of a story that we spoke about before, and that's of the hemorrhaging woman. Remember the context of what was happening here. Jesus was over on the other side of the sea. You can take a boat and cross directly to the port of Magdala. They know, archaeologists have found the port here. And being, a fish processing area, it was very logical that this was a place where many boats would come into. So that's why when we spoke about the hemorrhaging woman, and even when we spoke about Daniel Cariola and the work that he did of the encounter painting of the hemorrhaging woman, it's right on that port road. Because the gospel says that Jesus was over in Corsi and he crossed to the other side of the lake. I mean, it's not completely irrational to say, or it's not completely crazy to say that Jesus came to this part of the Sea of Galilee when he crossed over from the other side. And on the port road, he met the leader of the synagogue. And perhaps these ruins right underneath my feet are where he and his family lived. And we know that his daughter was dying. And the synagogue man named Jairus, this leader of the synagogue, ran as quickly as he could when he found out that Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the lake. So let's talk about what happened in this encounter. And know that, if this wasn't Jairus' synagogue, it was probably one of his friends. It was the place of some leader of some synagogue who went to find Jesus in the same time that he encountered the hemorrhaging woman. So let's go to the Gospel of Mark. Mark chapter 5. We're going to go straight down to verse number 21. And this is what it says. And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. Then came a man, the ruler of a synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he fell at his feet and begged him, saying, My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be made well and live. And he went with him. And a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. And then a woman who had had a flow of blood for 12 years came up and touched him. So we know that Jairus is, if we want to put that scene in this town, he's coming from the port road. There's so many people around him. And even though Jairus is compelled by urgency, the urgency of a father, Jesus stops. And he, there's a woman who comes, she's healed. And then finally, he continues on with Jairus. But that doesn't happen until verse 35. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? But ignoring what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, Do not fear, only believe. And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, he saw a tumult and people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, Why do you make a tumult and weep? The child is not dead, only sleeping. And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, Talitha koum, which means, Little girl, I say to you, arise. And immediately the girl got up and walked, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were overcome with amazement, and he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. So this gospel passage is so powerful. And for me, it's even more powerful thinking that it may have happened here in Magdala. And what I would like to do in this reflection today as we finish up our 4th week is to keep moving into this whole dimension of not just looking at our brokenness, but embracing the healing that our Lord wants to give us. We ventured into the whole wonderful realm of healing prayer. And we've also noticed that there are barriers inside of us when our Lord wants to heal us that don't allow us to be open to that grace. There's a lot of different things that can happen. And I want to speak a little bit today about one of those, which is forgiveness. But to get into that, let's talk a little bit about what was happening in Jairus' heart at this moment. And I've made reference to it already. You know, there's this synagogue official. He's an important man. He's a respected man. He is someone who may have heard about Jesus. Of course, you know, his fame was spread around this whole area. Mary Magdalene was from here. He probably knew not only Mary Magdalene's family, how she was when she was a little girl, and what happened to her as she grew. What happened to her as she was filled with these 7 demons. And then again, what happened to her now that she was following Christ. And so since he knew her, he was able to say, oh, maybe I can trust in Jesus. But he had to really guard his words. He had to be very careful because people took him as a point of reference. So he was weighing in his own mind and in his own heart, should we believe this teacher? Is he someone that breaks the Sabbath? Is he someone that is guided by the prince of demons, like they, you know, may have said up in the synagogue up in Wadi Hammam? But what brought him over the edge of belief was a tragedy in his own family. There is nothing worse for a parent than to see their child suffer. And think about this father who has the role of protector, who has the role of bringing everything that is good to his wife and to his child. He can't do anything now that his daughter is about ready to die. But as a good synagogue leader, he said, well, I know that the Lord is one that can give anything that I need. He believes in God. He knows the history. He knows how he has saved the people of Israel for, you know, all times throughout all of salvation history. And he hears that Jesus is coming to his town. In fact, he hears he just stepped out of the boat. And I can imagine him, you know, just as any man wanting to solve a problem, running from his house, running to the port and seeing Jesus and going right up to him, panting, desperate and urgent. Come and heal my daughter. She is at the point of death. This decision of saying, okay, I'm going to trust in him. I'm going to trust what I have heard from so many other places. And he puts himself on the line because immediately everyone has their eyes fixed on the synagogue leader endorsing the carpenter from Nazareth as being someone through whom our Lord does many great works, including healing. So he swallows his pride in a certain sense because he's moved by something much more important. So Jesus says yes. And so you can imagine, you know, him trying to bring him down these roads, coming back toward the synagogue. And even walking in a straight path like we have here in Magdala, it takes, you know, a good 4 minutes, 5 minutes to get from the port if you're walking at a leisurely pace. If you run, it might take 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And so he was trying to bring Jesus along as quickly as he could, but he was surrounded by the crowd of people that was stopping. Then his heart just falls when he sees this woman come up, or he probably didn't see her, but he sees Jesus stop in his tracks. And then this whole conversation that we talked about before ensues. Okay, this woman, it's older woman, she's been sick for 12 years, she stops Jesus. Whereas this man says, I've got a little girl at home that's going to die. This woman, okay, she's ill. She's impure. And she's not dying. Stop, you know, stop dallying here. Come to my house. You know, he has to be in his leadership role. He has to wait. He has to have respect for what the teacher is doing. But there's an urgency in his heart. You can imagine that he might be feeling not just urgency, but anger. Anger at the woman, like I said, she's already impure. Anger at the crowd that's stopping him from moving more quickly. Anger at the whole situation that's happening in his own house. Anger at himself because he can't fix it. Frustration with the whole situation. Doubt starting to creep in about what God is doing with all of this. How can God be good if this is happening? Who can he blame? Everyone around. So this is Jairus at this moment. This is Jairus.